Okay, it is 7 o'clock now, so I will call to order this regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission this May 10th, 2021, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Clerk, take the roll.
Commissioner Alsager?
I'm in the city of Mount Pleasant, county of Isabella, and the state of Michigan.
Commissioner Simon?
I'm in Michigan, Isabella County, city of Mount Pleasant.
Commissioner Gillis?
Mount Pleasant, Isabella, Michigan.
Commissioner Ronan?
City of Mount Pleasant, County of Isabella, and the great state of Michigan.
Commissioner Tolis?
City of Mount Pleasant, Isabella County, State of Michigan.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher?
The city of Mount Pleasant, county of Isabella, state of Michigan.
And Mayor Joseph?
I'm in the city of Mount Pleasant, the county of Isabella, and the state of Michigan. Okay, looks like everyone is here and accounted for. Tonight we have, first we have a presentation of our introduction of recent city employees hired, and I believe we have a video.
Tom Kirchhofer was recently promoted from paid on-call firefighter to fire equipment operator. Tom has over 20 years of experience in fire services. He joined the Mount Pleasant Fire Department as a paid on-call firefighter in 2002. Welcome, Tom. Alan Tillotson started his service with the Mount Pleasant Fire Department in 2017 as a paid on-call firefighter. He was recently promoted as a fire equipment operator. Congratulations, Alan.
I just want to say congrats to Tom and Alan, and thank you for your service to the city. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing National Public Works Week. And so I will read our proclamation here. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities, and to the public health, high quality of life, and the well-being of the people of the city of Mount Pleasant. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders of Michigan to gain knowledge of let's start. Whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders of Michigan to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Be it now Now therefore, I, William L. Joseph, Mayor of the City of Mount Pleasant, do hereby designate the week of May 16th through the 22nd as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to pay tribute to our public works professionals and to recognize the substantial contributions they make every day to protect our local and national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and the great seal of the City of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, this 10th day of May, 2021. And just to follow up, our public works employees, they're the ones responsible for a lot of things we take granted every day, like clean water, protecting our streets, and all sorts of things that make our lives a lot easier and protect our public health. So it's very important, their jobs, and I'm glad to recognize them this week. So. Good. Next, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. All right, I don't see any hands up. So next we'll open up public input on agenda items. And this is the chance for community members to comment on anything on the agenda tonight. We do have one public hearing on an ordinance to amend Chapter 97 of the Parks and Recreation. And so there will be a chance to comment at that at the public hearing. But I will go over to the attendees section. And if you're with us by Zoom, you can go to the bottom of your screen and hit the raise hand feature. Or if you're with us by phone, you can hit *9. And I just ask that you state your name and your address for comment. Looks like we have a Micah Foken, I believe. Micah, you're with us if you can hear us.
Yes, good evening. It's Foken, you got it right. My name is Micah Foken. I live at 910 East Chippewa Street, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, 48858. My comment is in regards to the letter that I sent on May 3rd, just a week ago, to amend the recreational marijuana ordinance to allow any medical licensed business that is already opened and operating in Mount Pleasant to be granted conditional approval for a recreational equivalent license. I'd like to actually expand on that. I'm not sure if the letter is going to be read. I did see that I'm not in the agenda, but I did see that my letter was among your notes here. But I would like to expand on that because of the feedback that I've received from a small circle of Mount Pleasant residents and from the results and the findings that I've heard that the ad hoc committee received roughly 5 years ago to also possibly consider a free market in this. I feel that I requested to be on the agenda. I'm not really quite sure if I really am. So I can discuss this, but since it looks like that I am not, I would like to add into that letter the free market possibility. I guess for this request, for this consideration, I would definitely like a yes or no as soon as possible, so I can get started on this with the city clerk, if it is a no. I can't hear you, Will.
I just wanted to thank you, Micah, for being with us today. And we did get your letter, and I think your letter is part of the receipt of petitions and communications. And so that's all I have for you right now. So.
Okay. When would be possibly the time that I would be able to discuss this or get a yes or no?
Mayor, if you'd like me to jump in, I could, please. We did receive the letter and it is, as you indicated, it is on the agenda. It is not an agenda item for your action this evening. because of the previous discussions that the City Commission has had on this matter regarding the number of preferred retailers and the number of individuals that we have on the waiting list. So if the commission does desire to make a change, you would have to give some direction to staff to have an item put on a future agenda, but we did not do it on this agenda based on your previous discussions. So under the announcement section of the agenda, you could give direction to the staff to do that if the commission desired.
Okay. Let's see here. Is this because of, I guess I'm not really quite understanding. This is basically just because of things that are happening from the past? Because ultimately what I'd like to do is I'd like to start my citizens initiative as soon as possible. So I guess I'm not really understanding what would be the holdup on that. And if I can receive some information on why, that would be incredibly helpful for me. Ultimately, the way that I look at it is this group here is the legislative body. So it's really ultimately your decision. So I guess if there's a time frame that I should look forward to, that would be incredibly helpful as well. Is there a time frame?
Well, Mike, I guess I'm hesitating to kind of have a back and forth with you because typically our practice is to not do that in public comment.
I understand. And I respect that. I do. I guess I'd like to know where I go next, because citizen initiatives, citizen referendum, it really doesn't have anything to do, in my view, and you can educate me because I always appreciate the education, on what I can actually possibly do at this time to get this ball rolling. Because I respect Nancy and what she said, but I feel that has nothing to do with what I'm bringing to the committee today. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how my mind is going right now. Right.
Yeah, I think currently today on our agenda there's nothing to directly address the recreational marijuana ordinance, and really I think there's probably conversations on the commission that need to happen before it gets to a direct vote on the agenda. So that's kind of all I can tell you today, and that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. So when do you feel that you would be able to provide me with an answer, Will? You're not sure?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to answer that question right now. That's
okay. I guess that's all I really needed to say. It's just I just understand that in order for me to move forward with the next step that I'm looking into, I either need a yes or a no. And I guess I'll just wait patiently for this answer as soon as possible. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have Caleb Carey.
Hello, can you hear me? Nod, yes, no, can you hear me? Okay, yep. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to, first of all, Caleb Carey, 214 South Pine Street. I am a owner of Consano, which is a medical marijuana provisioning center. I own it with my mother, Deb Carey. Most of the commission knows this already. I believe there's only really one new commissioner, Simon. But I noticed, I know you guys probably aren't going to try to rule on this at all. The bureaucrats definitely probably have told you that until the litigation is done, we don't want to do anything. But the truth is, your guys' inaction is hurting this business. I mean, Nancy mentioned the waiting list. The difference between our business and the ones in the waiting list, we bought a building. We refurbished a building. We're ready to operate. We have invested in this community. And your inaction and your dodging, it's very insulting, frankly. I was hoping maybe you guys would consider doing the right thing, but I knew that was a stretch. But hopefully we can work on this petition and put it to the people. Thank you.
Nancy, did we have any emailed comments to the commission?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. All right. Well, looks like everyone who's got their hand up has had a chance to speak. And so I will now close the public comment section for now. There is another chance for public comment at the end of the meeting and at the public hearing. So next on our agenda is the receipt of petitions and communications, and I'll hand it over to Manager Ridley.
Yes, all we have on this section of the agenda tonight is the report on pending items, which also includes the report on complaints received, the March minutes of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and the correspondence that we previously mentioned regarding the recreational marijuana ordinance amendment. And as I previously indicated, there was a request that an item be put on your agenda about amending the ordinance. And because of your previous discussions on that matter, there is no action item on your agenda for that this evening. And so those are the items under petitions and communications.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. The consent calendar is where we're at now. Items with an asterisk next to them are on the consent calendar. Are there any items that need to be removed? Seeing no hands, Manager Ridley, would you like to give us an overview of the consent calendar?
Yes, we're recommending the following items for your approval tonight: the minutes of your April 26th meeting. Secondly, we're asking you to set a public hearing. Staff is working on a grant request for the replacement of our digesters at the Water Resource Recovery Facility. And the grant request requires the holding of a public hearing. And then after that public hearing is held, a resolution of support from the City Commission. So we're recommending that the public hearing be set for May 24th, after which we'll present the resolution to you for your consideration. We're also asking you to set a public hearing on the potential of a revocation of an industrial facilities tax abatement. As we previously discussed with the City Commission, we learned earlier this year that DACO is closing their Mount Pleasant facility, and a tax abatement was granted in 2014, which was supposed to be in place for 10 years. Due to the closure, we're recommending that you set a public hearing to obtain input on a possible revocation of the abatement effective January 1st, 2022, which would thereby eliminate the last 3 years of the abatement due to the closure of the facility. And after the public hearing, you would consider a resolution to that effect. And I think I previously mentioned the State Tax Commission has the final authority on that revocation, but you would be making a recommendation to it. I should note at our last meeting, we did talk about the fact that the tax abatement agreement does not have a provision in it for us to bill back for the prior 7 years, and that we would look at including such a provision in future tax abatements. But one of the things that I should have mentioned is even if this abatement agreement had that provision in it, I'm not sure that we would be recommending that rebilling for this instance anyway, because the company has met the requirements that were part of the tax abatement as far as increasing the real property value and creating the jobs during the 7 years that they have been here. But that provision would have allowed you to at least consider it. But I just wanted to point out in this case, I'm not sure if we would have enacted that provision anyway. So just a clarification on that prior discussion. The next item on, and we're recommending, I can't remember if I said that public hearing be set for May 24th as well. And then the next item on the consent calendar is we have a contract for custodial services at 3 of our city buildings. And that contract was bid in 2018 and was awarded to Romano Services, and we refer to them as RBS. The contract with them expired on January 1st of this year, and both the company and the city have continued to follow the terms of that contract due to the pandemic and the importance of having our proper cleaning protocols in place. And RBS recently offered an ability to extend the contract at our current pricing levels with the same current services we're currently getting through the end of December 2022. So we're recommending the commission authorize the mayor to sign the appropriate extension documents at the same pricing. And lastly, we have approval of payrolls and warrants.
Commissioner Toles.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, please.
Commissioner Gillis.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar as presented. Any discussion? Pete, I think your hand's still up. Just making sure. Okay. I just wanted to make a note, I think on the minutes from last meeting, I know I had a lot to say, but I just wanted to add in there that I just wanted to congratulate Chris Bundy on his retirement. So if that note can be made. Okay. Seeing no other hands, I think we can go to roll call vote on approving the consent calendar.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Alsteiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Toles,
Yes.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher,
Yes.
Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the motion is carried. Next on our agenda is item number 7, which is our public hearing. The public hearing is on ordinance to amend Chapter 97, the Parks and Recreation, and consider approval of the same. Manager Ridley, would you like to give an overview before I open the public hearing?
Yes, thank you. Since last year, the Parks and Recreation Commission has been reviewing Chapter 97 related to the parks rules. And it started out as a review based on a question regarding the prohibition we had for riding bikes at certain trails in the parks. But instead of just updating that section, the Parks and Recreation Commission reviewed the entire chapter to make sure it was consistent with our current practices and also to discuss some of the current challenges that are occurring in the parks. So after holding the public hearing, we recommend you approve the amended ordinance as presented. I would indicate that one question came in today that I thought I would answer now before the public hearing. And then certainly we have park staff with us if the commission has other questions after the public hearing. But one of the questions that came in had to do with the provision that would prohibit animals in the cemetery. And the question was whether we could instead require leashes on the animals in the cemetery. And I would just point out that the current rules require that now. If an individual has an animal in the cemetery, they're supposed to be leashed and they're supposed to clean up after their animal, but that unfortunately does not happen. And so that's why the Parks and Recreation Commission felt they had to go to the next step, is because people are not adhering to the current rules. And it is somewhat upsetting to some of the other cemetery goers when that happens. So that's why the prohibition is being recommended. Other than for service animals and obviously during the funerals that might occur there. So I just thought I would give that information before you get into your discussion.
Thank you, Manager Ridley. At this time, I will open up the public hearing. And so if you're with us to speak, you can, if you're with us by Zoom, you can go to the bottom of your screen and hit the raise hand button and I will recognize you. If you're with us by phone, you can hit *9 and that will do the same. And I would just ask that you state your name and your address for the record. Manager Ridley, did we have any emailed comments on this topic?
No, none came in, sir.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands up in the attendees section, so I will close the public hearing at this time and then look for a motion and our discussion from the commission. Commissioner Elsager.
Thank you. I move to approve the ordinance to amend Chapter 97, Parks and Recreation of the Mount Pleasant City Code as presented.
And Commissioner Toles.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support or a second to amend Chapter 97. Any other discussion? Commissioner Elsager.
Thank you. I enjoyed as I read through their proposed changes and think that they did a very thorough job, and I will be supporting this tonight.
All right, I don't see any other hands up, and so I will, I guess we'll go to a roll call vote on the amendment as presented.
Commissioner Toles,
Yes.
Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Alsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frischbacher,
Yes.
and Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. All right. Motion is carried. The next on our agenda is item number 11, which is the appointment of members to the ad hoc committee for preliminary review of the executive search firm proposals. And this is a committee assignment that I sort of have discretion over. And if you're not familiar, this committee will be receiving the proposals from a search firm to conduct the search for our next city manager. And so I talked to pretty much everyone, or people had talked to me about or sent me an email about their interest. And I'll say that there was very widespread interest. Almost everyone was involved and wanted to be on this committee. And so it was a difficult decision to make. I did make a commitment, I think, to try to present or give a chance to everyone that, has different political views. I think on our board, we certainly range from, more conservative to more liberal, and just like every other board, probably in government. And so I try to make a little bit of a cross section of that. And so I will be appointing Commissioner Elsager and Commissioner Toles, and then myself on the ad hoc committee. And just as a reminder, we are only making a recommendation, and this will come for a full vote for the full commission. And so, and obviously we'll be relying on everyone's research and opinions to make a confident and a decision that everyone can, feels confident in, because really all these decisions towards the next hiring of a city manager, need to be, I think, as best as can, unified and to, really it's in the best interest of the community. So, okay. Next on our agenda is item number 12, which is to consider a budget amendment for the intern for the neighborhood enhancement grant. And I'll turn that over to Manager Ridley for overview.
As the commission will recall, earlier this year, the city was awarded a second neighborhood enhancement grant from the state. and an additional allocation of HODAG funds was made to make $90,000 available for another round of grants within the city. And we previously shared with you the results of last year's grant awards to show the success of that program. Tonight, we're recommending a budget amendment of $7,200. And what that would provide is funding to hire an intern to assist with this program. Our hope is that as we continue to receive these grants from the state, which hopefully if we continue to show the success that we've shown, we can get those on an ongoing basis. We want to make sure our program is as streamlined as it can be, and the communication with property owners is streamlined as well. So we're hopeful that an intern will be able to help us accomplish that in the second round, to look at ways to improve that process, to relieve some of the staff time from the existing staff working on that. And also, quite frankly, it would provide a valuable learning experience for a student. So we're recommending this allocation from the HODAG fund. And even after this allocation, there will still be approximately $230,000 in the fund for future neighborhood projects. So we recommend the budget amendment as presented.
Commissioner Tolis.
Make a motion to approve a budget amendment of $7,200 for the neighborhood enhancement program intern.
Commissioner Alsager. Mary, we couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to support the budget amendment. Any discussion? Commissioner Tolis, your hand is up.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Commissioner Gillis.
Yes. I will be supporting this evening, but I do have some concerns that we may want to look into a more permanent position for our code enforcement task force, being that we just did a blight ordinance. And I know that during the time that we were trying to have some effect on the area south of High Street, we were able to find funds that we could allocate towards a third code enforcement officer that helped us get to the place that we wanted to be with that area. And I see that we have a lot of blight here that has to be addressed. And I know they're going to try to work, obviously, with community members and homeowners to get them places where they could get rid of their stuff or help them have avenues to clean up their yards or the blight that may be in their parcels. But I do believe that we should consider a permanent staff member, not permanent, I should say a staff member on a yearly basis that not only could help with the grants, but also help out in the field addressing the blight concerns. The last thing I want is the ordinance not to be effective or implemented. My biggest problem with some of our ordinances and policies is there's no bite behind the policy, or it's kind of hit and miss, depending if someone complains in your neighborhood or code enforcement drives by and addresses it, but it's somewhat haphazard that we don't have more consistency and avenues to help these people with their blight issues. So I really do believe that we need more staff in that department to help us get to where we want. That blight ordinance was very scarce of where we started, sparse, I should say, from where we started from. So we dialed it back so that we could all become aware of some of the issues and hopefully address them. So I don't think this, I know it would be helpful, obviously, to the department, but I I fail to think that that is going to be a good enough fix to where the commission wanted to see the blight being lessened. And I think the only way we're going to be able to do that is to put some more man hours on the field, not just in the office going through applications, but actually foot traffic out in the field addressing some of those problems. I know from the 6 years ago when I ran for city commission, blight problems came up more, almost as much as some of the other things. I mean, it was a top priority to people for us to address the blight, and it's been very hard to get some movement on that. So I'm grateful for the first ordinance, and even though it's a very slimmed down version of what we started with, I do believe that what we're asking code enforcement to do is way over what they're capable with the manpower they have. So I know we have extra monies. We talked about that last commission meeting, the extra money we have. And so I just like to throw that out there for the other commissioners to chew on, that we might get a little bit more evidence of what we're trying to do through ordinance if we had more boots on the ground that can help us address those problems. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
Yeah, Manager Ridley, how many hours are we looking at this intern working, and what's the weeks?
The intern's going to work throughout the rest of the year.
Okay.
I can't remember the number of weeks or the number of hours per week off the top of my head. Let me see if I can find it. 20 hours per week for the remainder of the year.
Through December?
Yes.
Okay. And when would they start? June or right now, or?
As soon as we can get someone hired, if this is approved this evening.
Okay.
Commissioner Ronan.
Yeah, I'd just like to say how pleased I am to see this type of initiative. You know, the university has an engineering program that's in construction engineering or quality control type stuff. I think students from this program would be ideal for these types of internship stuff, and it does show a nice way to rely on resources we have at the university. And at the same time, support the university, support the community. So I think movement in this direction, as opposed to hiring someone, using an intern. I think it's just, I'm just thrilled. So I'm going to support it.
Yeah, I'd sort of echo similar to what Commissioner Ronan had to say. I think internship opportunities for things like this for our CMU students, and I guess potentially have a student from a different university or something like that, but they lead to connections in the community and also make people more involved in their education, and whether or not that person decides to stick around the Mount Pleasant area or move on, hopefully they have a great experience here and they'll learn some things and be an ambassador for CMU or a community or wherever they came from. So Commissioner Toles.
Manager Ridley, I got one question on our enforcement staff. Is it less present right now than it was last year? How many people have we got in there?
We have 2 full-time code enforcement staff, and then Assistant Fire Chief Doug Lobsinger occasionally will assist out in the field at times. And that's the same as what we've had for the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gillis.
Yes, it was about 5 years ago, maybe, that we had the third code enforcement. 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I remember it was 2 years of my term, my first term. And just clarification, this intern would just be working with the dispersing the grants and not be in the field to address blight or code enforcement issues.
Our intent was to have them focused on grants. If our estimates are wrong and there's other things that they could effectively do in the field, Commissioner Gillis, we may look at using them in that way, but it was set up to be focused primarily on the grants. And I guess the other thing I would mention is with the property maintenance standards ordinance that was approved, I think in December, we committed to do a review of the effectiveness of that ordinance and report back to you. And part of that review will include how the staffing worked out and whether there was more there than what could be handled with the current staffing. So we do have that on our radar to look at as part of that ordinance review. It may not just be as quickly as what you were hoping for.
Okay, that's good news. And then do you think there it's going to disperse $90,000 worth of money for repairs through this grant? That's going to be going on all the way till December?
Yes, that's the plan. Because that's a little bit more than 90,000, because you'll remember in last year's disbursement, we didn't use all of it. I think there was about $9,000 left over. So our hope is with the number of applications that we will get, that we'll be able to get all of those projects done by December 31st. But that is somewhat dependent on availability of contractors and availability of supplies, which is, as you all know, a problem in the construction industry. But our hope is we'll have enough quality projects to have them completed by December.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Ridley.
Commissioner Toles, did you have another thing to say?
Put it down.
All right, I don't see any other hands up, and so I think we can go to a roll call vote on the motion to approve the budget amendment for the intern for the neighborhood enhancement grant.
Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Toles,
Yes.
Commissioner Alsteiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher,
Yes.
Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, motion's carried. Next on our agenda is item number 13, which is to consider a closed session pursuant to subsection 8E of the Open Meetings Act to consult counsel with regarding pending litigation, Sedjo Services LLC and N East Services LLC, Pure Relief North Union LLC, and Carry Investments LLC.
Mayor, before you take a motion on that, I received a note from attorney Mike Homier today who indicated that there's 2 additional appeal case numbers that we should have listed on the agenda. So if we could have Mike give us those appeal case numbers so that when you have the motion, we have all of the case numbers covered, please. So Mike, could you let us know the 2 additional ones that should be listed on there?
Yeah, give me 1 second. They are Court of Appeals case 356740 and case number 357072.
And both of those are related to the Carry Investments case, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So that way all of the case numbers are represented for all of those pending lawsuits.
Thank you, Manager Ridley and Attorney Homier. Entertain a motion from this commission. Commissioner Alsteiger.
I move that we move into closed session for these discussions.
Okay. And Commissioner Toles.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed session regarding the cases listed in the agenda and those added here by our attorney Mike Homier. There is no discussion on this, and so we'll go to straight into a roll call vote.
Commissioner Alsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolas,
Yes.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher,
Yes.
Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, now we are on to announcements on city-related issues and new business. Commissioner Gills.
Yes, I'd like to invite our community members, if you are interested in serving on one of our boards and committees, you could go to our website, mountpleasant.org, under boards and commissions, and the application is there along with the descriptions of these boards and the days they meet. So if you have any interest in serving or our community and have some extra time, please look into that. We would love to have you. Also want to encourage our community members, if they haven't already gotten vaccinated, to go to our Central Michigan District Health Department, cmdhd.org, to schedule your appointment. Several venues and several appointments are open, so there shouldn't be any wait. You might be able to get it as soon as the very next day after you make your appointment. Of course, there's no cost to you for that vaccine, and it takes about 15-20 minutes at the most. So please get your vaccine so that we can head back to the ball games and the concerts and graduation ceremonies and such. I also want to give a shout out to our law enforcement officers, because we had another month of excellent service to our communities as at the beginning of petitions and receipts. And I'd just like to ask, instead of trying to compare the discord on a national level to our local police, I would hope our community can recognize that I believe we should elevate our community law enforcement officers as a role model to the national level. We're very lucky to have our officers and staff that have expertise, training, and experience to community police, and they have a stellar reputation of handling some very difficult situations with compassion and training and expertise. So I would like to serve as one community member that believes that our law enforcement officers are role models to other communities and can be looked as one place that where community policing is actually working, and they are members of our society. They are members of our community. Their kids go to school here. We have baseball games with each other, and they're just as much as of our community as we are. And it takes a village. And so I want to give a shout out to all our law enforcement officers, and particularly our Mount Pleasant officers, who do an outstanding job of policing and protecting the safety of our community members. So thank you to Director Lauria and his staff. And I think that's it. Thank you for listening.
All right. I just wanted to say a couple things today. As Commissioner Gillis noted, just want to remind people that you can get your vaccine and to continue wearing your mask and practice social distancing, and know that the threat of COVID-19 is still out there. And if we work together, we can, beat this pandemic quicker than we want it to, I guess. I don't know if that doesn't make any sense, but we all want it over. It's what I'm trying to say. And then I just wanted to say congratulations to our recent CMU graduates. Tough year to finish, I think, your collegiate career or graduate degree or doctoral degree, anything you're working on. you're certainly entering the world in a very interesting time. And so good luck, and just remember to come back and, bring your family and friends and tell them all the good times you had in Mount Pleasant and at CMU. And that's all I got for today.
Mayor, I was just going to mention before you open up public comment that what our intention is with the closed session is that MAC TV will keep this Zoom meeting live so that we don't lose that link. But each of you will have to exit out of this meeting and sign into the other Zoom meeting link that you were emailed so that we can have that confidential closed session discussion. And when that closed session discussion is done, you'll sign out of that meeting, sign back into this one, and we'll go back into our live stream for the work session discussion. So it's a little clunky doing this virtually, but that's the best way to keep the live meeting going, but yet have our confidential discussion on the closed session.
Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Gillis?
Thank you. Question, do we have to completely close out of this Zoom meeting, or can we just minimize it and open another Zoom browser? Does that work like that? I've never been on 2 Zoom meetings at once.
I
So
think you're better to leave the meeting to be safe and then sign back into it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. And if you're with us by Zoom, you can go to the bottom of your screen and hit the raise hand button. Or if you're with us by phone, you can hit *9 and state your name and your address for the record. Nancy, did we have any emailed comments?
No, there were none that came in.
All right, I don't see any hands up in the attendees, and so I will close the public comment section here, and then we will recess currently and go into our closed session, and then we will return back to here for our work session on the capital improvement plan. So see everybody soon.
So I'm just leaving this one up and open?
Yes, please, Nick.
Absolutely. Just want to clarify. Thank you.
Yep.
Round 2.
Round 2.
Lead.
Welcome back.
Hey. How come we didn't get a break?
We did
What
not.
happened there? No.
Vice Mayor just pointed out we never had a recess, Mayor.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Do you guys want 5 minutes? Yeah, let's do 5 minutes.
Okay, but you got to stay on, Will, and tell everybody else that's signing on that they have 5 minutes.
I'll
Okay.
stay on and do that. I'll suffer for it.
It doesn't matter to me.
Good for the team, Nancy.
They might not come on in the 5 minutes.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you want to start about 8:51 or 52, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Hey, George, we're taking just a few minutes for everybody to get something to drink, go to the bathroom, whatever.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah.
Will, in all truthfulness, if you want to go get something to drink real quick, I'll watch for others to come on and let them know.
Okay. I might just get some water, but that's,
Okay.
yeah, I'm good.
Great, thanks.
Pete and Mary, it was pointed out that we didn't get a recess, so we're not going to start till about 8:52 if you need to do anything for a couple minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Heather, the mayor gave everybody a couple minute recess, so we're not going to start up again till about 8:52 if you need a break at all. Nick at Mac TV, can you make me a host again, please? Thank you.
Oh, Paul's not here? I wanted to tell him I was at, I stayed at the Morris Inn this weekend. It's the
He's
hotel.
an attendee.
It's the hotel on Notre Dame's campus. I'm just saying. I was thinking of him. Paul, you were missed.
I heard that.
Maybe,
That's the Holy Land down there. There is no COVID on that campus. It all stops when you go on that campus.
well, that's not what my son says. But the inn was nice. I mean, it really is a very nice facility. I mean, when football starts up again,
Yeah.
I'm going to drag you down. But anyway, I didn't mean to give you a hard time.
So Mayor, it looks like we're just waiting for Commissioner Alsager to come back and then you'll have everybody.
All
There
right.
she is.
Yep. Okay, everybody's back. Time's 8:52, and so we'll resume our meeting into our work session about the 2022 to 2027 capital improvement plan. Obviously, we sort of left off at our last meeting talking about special assessments and the percentage that the city should be responsible for versus the property owner. And really, I feel like that's where we're going to pick up. And then obviously we've got a few projects that are from the master plan that we'd like to discuss. And then potentially the Oak Street sidewalk proposal. And so that's kind of what's on our plate for this evening. Got about an hour. I think at our next meeting is the public hearing for the capital improvement plan. And so we may hear from the public. I'm not sure, I don't remember off the top of my head what our work session meeting looks like, but I guess if we have to, we could discuss it some more, so.
Right, you're right, Mayor. It all depends on how far we get this evening. If we can get through all of these issues and you have no other questions, we would not need to have one on May 24th. But if you have if we don't get through this or you have other things you want to discuss, then we could have another work session on the 24th.
Okay. All right. I suppose we should just jump into it. The first project is about lighting from Illinois' from Maine to Fancher, and that has the 70-30 special assessment split. Related is the alley reconstruction, which also has a 70-30 split by policy. I think they're two different projects. I think they're two different discussions. So I'd like to maybe focus on the lighting first, and then we'll move on to the alleyway.
Yeah, and if you look on page 80 of your capital improvement plan, if you have it, it shows you the history of the special assessments for pedestrian lighting. And what that history shows is that whenever we've done lighting in what is the current CD4 or CD5 zones, or under our prior ordinance, it was the equivalent of the M zoning, it was always a 70% property owner and 30% city split, because it was believed that the benefit for the increased safety in those areas and the ability to monitor potential nuisance gatherings was of a bigger benefit to the property owners. So that's how those were set up. If it was in a residential area, which are now our CD3s, but were previously the R zones, they were either 100% grant funded or 100% city funded. So for the project we have shown in 2022, that's in a CD4 zone. So we have it proposed at the 70-30 split, consistent with the prior way that those have all been handled, with the exception of last year, because you'll remember on Michigan Street, we did make an exception, but that was really due to two reasons. One was the original design of the lighting did not appear to be adequate. And then on top of that, we had the pandemic. And so that one was an exception to the standard policy that has been used on pedestrian lighting. So we're just looking for your guidance for next year's project.
Mary, go ahead.
My first thoughts are, I see the rationale for the 70-30 and the history of it, but I wonder with increased costs and things like that, if maybe it would be time to have a discussion to alter that in general, you know, maybe 50-50, just to throw out some numbers.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher or Amy?
I'd agree with Mary on that. I don't know if it'd be a 50-50 split or a 60-40 or whatever, but obviously not only does the city benefit from adding extra light because it makes us more of a walkable, safer community, the residents benefit from it because it makes their home value, you know, more secure, because it's, you know, you have this lighting, it makes it, people feel safer, they feel like they can get around. So I would say that, you know, based on everything, I think it's a good split. For the 70-30 is not a good split, but I think that there's a better split for the city and the residents because of the fact that we have, you know, we're both benefiting equally in this.
Yeah.
So Amy, are you suggesting in the residential zones, we should start special assessing? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, it's in the CD4 and the CD5. Isn't that the districts where we have like the larger the housing units, the larger like apartments and stuff like that?
Yeah, currently CD4 and CD5 do have the larger units, and those are currently assessed 70-30. I thought you were talking about the CD3s and saying that those should be special assessed, where it's the smaller houses or duplexes or 3-unit places.
No, the CD4 and CD5 where we did some lighting where one of the apartment buildings did not get assessed because he stated it didn't come down, his sidewalk didn't come down far enough, even though I'm pretty sure he still got benefit from having those lights on his street.
If he was in the district, he would have been assessed.
No, he appealed. I remember seeing that he appealed and he didn't have to pay the assessment, which was kind of frustrating because I know that, you know, if you have an apartment and it's at the end of a dead end street and all the way down it is lighting for students, you're going to get a benefit from it. But I think that, you know, we don't have to do the 70-30, but I think the 50-50 or the 60-40 would be more reasonable for that. Because I know that the apartments are, you know, they're struggling a little bit right now, but I still think that this is a good value for them.
I know Paul has talked numerous times about how that lighting on, you know, the sidewalks is a benefit to public safety and, you know, not only for, you know, his employees to be able to do their job, but also to the people who are traversing those sidewalks and to feel safe. I've lived on a couple of blocks with either the lighting and not the lighting, and there's split opinions, I think, in the community about, you know, some people like the lighting, some people don't. But I think a lot of the younger people who are going to be out at night for a walk or if you're walking your dog. The lighting certainly is something that people, in the back of their minds, I think they enjoy. And so I think it does serve a greater purpose than just improving the immediate property owner who's there. So I'm also in favor of sort of on this one giving a little bit more, I guess increasing the city's share of the cost. I know I'm seeing a lot of head nodding, but I guess it would be helpful if everyone kind of spoke and made their opinions more clear, just so we can, move on quicker, probably. Pete?
I'm also in agreement with that. I like to change that to like a 60-40 split. I think would be more fair.
And 60 being the city's share or the property
Yes.
owner?
City 60, property owners 40.
Okay. George?
Yeah, I agree with Amy, Pete, and the mayor. I mean, the 60-40 sounds good to me. I mean, I don't have a particular percentage in mind, but I think it makes sense to readjust it.
Mary?
I guess I have a question. When it was 70-30, I thought the 70 was the homeowner.
Yes.
It was.
So we're talking about not only 50-50, but going past that where the city pays a majority. Okay.
George?
Yeah, Mary, that's a great, or Commissioner Alsiger, that's a great understanding. And my concern in moving it in that direction is that the homeowner or the person who owns the property doesn't have a choice. It's not like they're saying, hey, I really want to do this. It's something that's being decided on in the capital improvement plan. So we say, hey, we're going to do this and we're assessing you that. I'm okay with the 60-40, I guess.
Lori?
Yeah, I just have reservations. I was on the commission when we had so many complaining about the 70-30. And last year, I know that was a different animal. Not only was it downtown in the midst of pandemic, lighting was already there, but it wasn't, the decorative lighting. So that's a different animal. I don't consider that to be the same thing as we're discussing now. But going from 70% on the homeowners in previous years to now completely flip-flopping it to where it's 40, I don't know. I don't know if I would swing that far the other way. A 50-50 maybe, but for 60-40, I can't justify the change in having the parcel owners, the property owners pay 70% for so many multiple years that we did this, and all of a sudden now changing it. I just don't feel comfortable with that far of a swing, but that's just me. I think I'd feel more comfortable with a 50-50 to go down to that. And it could be a gradual change, where 3, 4, 5 years out, as we see our budgets and our buckets of money, that we may be able to swing a little bit farther. I think the property owners get more of the benefit than anyone else if they like lighting, because I'm still one of those that are like on the fence on the lighting. Aren't I, Paul? So, yeah. I mean, lighting's nice, but I was involved in politics when there was a lighting ordinance that we did here. So I kind of see a little bit of how many actual candle feet can go onto another person's property.
Oh, you mean light pollution?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did that because of the concerns of people and, you know, lighting up their properties and it's spilling over into someone else's bedroom windows and the such. And so there was a whole ordinance made for that. And then we're kind of doing, but you know, I understand the safety issues of it. So. But I'd feel more comfortable if it was a 50-50. I think the slide all the way on the other side might be detrimental to our reputation of changing it in so far of a swing.
Not to put you guys on the spot, but I'd like to hear, Mary, what you think, and I'd also like to hear from Olivia, just to see what you guys think about the 60-40 or a different number.
I think I'm kind of still at the 50-50.
I think I'm just in general agreement with reassessing this. I don't have my heart set on a specific percentage or can't really argue for a specific, but I think reassessing it and doing that swap is definitely beneficial to look at.
And just one more point. I think sometimes numbers might help us to, you know, if we got to see the numbers, okay, if we split it like this, it's going to cost the city this. If we split it like that, it's starting out with a 70-30 of what the original,
Well, typically, each lighting project that we try to put together has a total cost of $120,000. So at a 70-30 split, the property owners pay $84,000. If you went to a 50-50 split, they would pay $60,000. The city on a 70-30 split pays $36,000, and on a 50-50 split would pay $60,000. So that's the magnitude of what you're talking. It's every 10% is a $12,000 shift.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
I guess for me, and I think actually Pete made this point in our last meeting, is that this ends up really being the property of the city, whether you're talking about sidewalks, you're talking about lighting, alleyways. And so I kind of see it as, although, you know, we'll have a public hearing, property owners can, you know, basically say, hey, I don't want this. But at the end of the day, it's our decision. It's the city's decision whether or not to put that there and, you know, assess the tax for the infrastructure. And so that's why I'm kind of leaning towards like, well, hey, we can, you know, if we do the 60, then if the city pays 60%, then it's kind of like we, you know, are putting our money sort of where our mouth is, and like we own that. That is the city's. And I could, you know, I guess I could go somewhere between 50 and 60, but I guess that's 60-40 seems to be kind of a number that at least a number of it are kind of landed on. So, Pete, go ahead.
I have to agree with you, Will, on that 60-40 and Amy on the 60-40. I think it just takes a little bite out of it, where it's not a 50-50 split. The city's paying 60 and residents are paying 40. So I don't know, it takes that little bit of an edge off there. But again, on the alleyways, I think we have to be uniform on this throughout. And I asked on that alley there, and Nancy told me earlier, the last time behind Marty's that was redone was 21 years ago.
No, it was in 1970. It was 51 years ago is when that was constructed.
Okay, 51 years ago. Okay. And that's why it's in the shape that it is now. That's why I said we have to figure some type of budget to sit there and put so much towards each one of these and you know, and get a little bit done every year rather than wait till it's a catastrophe and then just like Lot 8 next to my building and you're spending 4 times the amount that you're doing to redo you know, these other lots compared to that lot. You know, it's costing 4 times as much. But I think a 60-40 split, I think would be equitable. And like I said, it's just taking a little bit of edge off rather than having it 50-50. You know, residents can look at it and say, well, yeah, the city's paying 10% more than we're paying 60% and they're paying 40. So I think I would support that.
Yeah, and I do think consistency, rather than having different percentages for different things,
Absolutely.
is the way to go. If we're doing something like that for lighting, we probably should do that for alley reconstruction.
Yeah, I would just remind you, there is some advantage to consistency, but when we get to defending these at a tax tribunal, what the assessor has to do is be able to defend that the property owner is getting that amount of benefit. And so there are some public infrastructure improvements where the property owner does get a bigger benefit than in others. So I think you have to be careful to say they should all always be the same, because sometimes there are differences.
Yeah, because I do believe alleys are more beneficial to businesses. And mostly alleys in residential areas, because the normal community, we don't use those alleys. That's just their driveway. But we're not on that subject yet, so.
Right. Mary, go ahead.
Well, just one other point. A lot of times I'm hearing voices saying the residents will appreciate this, but when we're talking about CD4 and CD5, aren't we talking mostly about apartments?
Yeah, and businesses.
So it's business owners, we should be saying.
Yeah, and apartments.
I don't know if it's without looking at some data. I don't know if it's like clear cut, but CD4 obviously, yes, is zoned more for, more density housing, commercial, light commercial, I think. But some of that is, we're talking about Illinois Street. That's part of our downtown. I would argue that downtown serves everybody. So I think especially when it comes to lighting, I live on East Gaylord Street over by the high school essentially. And sometimes I'll go for a walk at night and I end up downtown, and then I'll loop back, and that's about a good hour walk. And so that lighting for me serves a purpose, even though I don't live within a stone's throw there, But go ahead, George.
Yeah, there's also, to piggyback on what Will was saying, there's also homes on that street, right? It's not, it's zoned a certain way. There's also private property, homes on that street, residences.
And our library. Isn't that the street, that's the portion we're talking to, right? University down to the church? Is it all gonna go all the way down to the church?
We are looking at Illinois from Maine to Fancher.
So
Okay. It's down to the church.
Yeah. On the sidewalk or the lighting, I think I do hear consistent at least 4 voices in favor of the 60/40. And so obviously that will be put to a vote when that special assessment is certified. But I think that's about as clear as we're going to get, and probably as much as we need to.
For tonight.
Yeah, next I think we should approach the alleyway. Since I'm talking now, I'll just kind of give my 2 cents on this. The TIFA used to capture money and was supposed to be responsible for alleyway reconstructions and parking lots. And then we took that, the collection or the portion of that taxes that the TIFA would collect, and we took that down to 0 with the idea that the city was now responsible for, that infrastructure, it seems like to me. And so I think that does in some ways make the case that, you know, the city has a little bit more in the game in protecting that infrastructure. But I'll open it up for everyone else to kind of chime in on what they think. So.
Just to clarify that, Will, that when that decision was made, it was twofold. One is the infrastructure needs in downtown greatly exceeded the amount of that was available through the capture. So there was no way to keep up with all of the parking lots and all of the alleys and everything else that was needed for downtown. And so when we decided that the city at large would take over the infrastructure of the downtown for the maintenance, and we reduced the capture, it was for that reason, but also so the city commission could decide where the priorities are throughout the city and how you wanted to maintain the infrastructure and where you wanted to put the infrastructure dollars. So it gave more control to the city commission to make those decisions about where they would be spent.
Thank you for that. Pete, go ahead.
Again, I had a discussion with you on these assessments on the alleys, and I just think 70-30 split is not fair. I know I've heard comments that, well, a lot of businesses use alleys. Well, they use alleys for deliveries, but also we have to have the alley for fire protection. We have to have it for police protection. It's owned by the city. And I mean, just like that alley being 51 years ago, it was redone. Seriously.
Right.
We need to put some types of funds to keep track of this stuff to do it. I know what Will was trying to point out was a lot of the stuff is pushed back. It was pushed back on Lot 8 next to my building. I mean, it just got neglected for year after year after year, and that's why we're 4 times the cost now to redo that, as opposed to some of the other lots that have been done 2-3 times, in the past. That's just like I have an alley behind my building. It's really no use to me. I have an office complex there. Everybody enters from the front. Nobody enters from the back. The back access my office. And there's a side door there that accesses the parking lot. So, I mean, that's been done a couple times. But I think to make it fairer, I think we almost need a 60-40 split on that, on these alleys. And then we have to have something in the future to allocate some type of fund that'll go to each one of these lots to keep up with the maintenance on it and not fall behind and neglect it. That's my feeling on it.
And you're exactly right, Pete. And I think by pulling it into the city overall infrastructure needs and part of the capital improvement plan, they'll be able to be maintained better than they were previously. But could I ask a question of Jason real quick that may be helpful? Jason, even if we're maintaining alleys really well and streets really well and parking lots really well, how many years is typically needed before you would have to do a full reconstruct, even with good maintenance?
Well, I'd say on the asphalt alleys, you may, if you keep up with it, you may never get to a full reconstruct. You could just replace the pavement. Now on those concrete alleys, like the one that we're talking about, it's a little tougher. There's not a whole lot of maintenance you can do, and so you're going to end up with a reconstruct. That alley's probably been in bad shape for longer than it should have been. Certainly, it doesn't owe us anything at this point. We've got our got our ears out of it. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the way to look at it.
Okay, thanks.
The point I was trying to make, Nancy, is like on Lot 8, if you ever go through there and look at it, there's sinkholes that are depressed, 8-10 inches down there that have just kept sinking over the years. And, if this would have been maintained right, the most you might have had was a regrind off, recompaction of the gravel and maybe redoing the curbs, and that's it. Not taking the complete base back out and having to lay a base down and a gravel foundation on top of it, which gets very expensive. That's the only point I was trying to make.
And I totally agree. And I think when we have them in the cycle, we'll be able to do that much better. I totally agree with you. Will, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Lori, you can go ahead though.
When the TIFA years and years ago had started and they captured the taxes, and they only had so much they could do with the parking lots and the alleys. What I was coming from when I agreed of the dissolution of the TIFA was because the tax capture included our library, our Commission on Aging, our ICTC, and they were losing monies from those businesses downtown with that capture. We were capturing not only our city taxes, but everybody's taxes and using them as our own and our own money. So literally, when we dissolved that TIFA, we didn't get all the money that we usually were bringing on a yearly basis in there, because we had to disperse to the other millages and the other entities that were getting, back their taxes that we had been capturing from them. But now that we're in this place, and I knew this was what it was going to come, it wasn't going to be all cherries, that we were going to finally, the rubber was going to hit the road, and then we were going to have to start funding the infrastructure in downtown rather than the slim pickings from the TIFA that we had to allocate what we were going to do year by year. But again, to slide down to a 60-40, I think 50-50 would be a better ratio, being that businesses, that is their, the street's a little bit different than the alley. The alley is where some people are setting up even dining areas in their alleys, smoking areas in their alleys. And so I would like to see a contribution a little bit higher than, I think it would be more fair if it was a 50-50, that our tax dollars were paying half of it and the parcel owners were paying, or business owners were paying half of it, mostly for the downtown. We're not talking residential areas, we're talking businesses. And I think that obviously will benefit them. And if they were to sell their business in the future, a upgrade in their alleyway behind their business is going to make their business worth more when they decide to sell it. We are increasing their taxable value with a decent alley, in my opinion. Not taxable value like on their actual tax bill, but if they were to sell it, obviously a good looking alley and a good looking street in front is going to be worth more money than what they're sitting at now. So I think our improvements is going to help their bottom line. Thank you.
Mary?
I'm in agreement with the commissioners who've spoken that I see we could make changes in this ratio like we did before, either the 50-50 or the 60-40. Either way.
George?
Yeah, I guess I'd sort of support what Pete, I don't know. I'd support what Pete's saying in terms of 60-40. It's not clear to me that fixing an alleyway behind a building adds to the building's value in any meaningful way. I mean, it may. I've sold a little bit of real estate, and oftentimes they look at square footage, and obviously if you're in a nice city, it's worth more than if you're not in a nice city. But I'm not sure having a light or having an alleyway that's in a certain shape necessarily enhances property value. But I mean, if someone's got more knowledge in real estate, that's fine. And if that's the case, then I'd like 6 lights put out front of my building, by the way. But I'm not, I mean, I get it, but I just don't think there's that direct an impact. I'm sort of 60.
Pete, go ahead.
I just want to make one other quick point. I think a lot of these alleys had dumpsters located in them before for the businesses. And now I think that has been pushed to having dumpsters put like in either the corner or the middle of the lots, just like lot 8. We had a couple, 2 or 3 dumpsters jammed into that alley. So the truck's got to come in there and jockey, which puts more wear and tear on the alley. Now we've moved them out into the lot, into that center of the lot, off to the side, and it just seems to work out a lot better. So I think in redoing some of these lots, now that the dumpsters are moved, you know, I think we'll have less maintenance on them. It's my feeling.
George?
Yeah. Can I ask a question that's unrelated to any of this? When they redid the lot beside my building, SHA did like a wonderful job with a dumpster. I mean, they put in a concrete patio, they put in dumpster, you know, they used to be just hanging out on the side, and they literally developed a place for the trucks to come in and to take care of those types of issues. I mean, is that a thing we're doing now with dumpsters?
Yeah, when we redid the Jackie Alley parking lot behind at town by the courthouse, we put in concrete pads. Sacred Heart paid for their own because that's a private dumpster just for them, and they put it on their own property. But Commissioner Tolis is right. In parking lot 8, there's some businesses that share dumpsters as well and don't have room on their property to have that dumpster. So we will be putting a concrete pad in similar to what we did in Jackie Alley. So we are trying to do that in those instances where businesses have to share dumpsters because they don't have a location on their own property.
Can I ask a follow-up? I hate to be obsessive about this, but in those situations, are we charging those businesses a little bit more, or?
We did not in those because those have been part of the parking lot, and businesses don't pay for parking lot reconstructions. The city's been paying for that. So we have not been charging that back to property owners.
Okay, I'm just curious. Okay, got it.
George, we went, like Nancy said, we went from 4 dumpsters down to 2 because I share mine with Fight, and then Mount Pleasant Realty shares theirs. So instead of having 4 big dumpsters out there, we have 2 good-sized dumpsters, 2 8 yards.
Which looks a lot nicer. Yeah, it cleans it up a lot. No, I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
I think what I'm hearing from the commission is I don't know that we have a consensus around a specific number, but somewhere, I know I've heard 50-50, I've heard 60-40. There seems to be some indication of, you know, moving that obviously away from 70-30. And I guess for me, my personal thinking, you know, thinking about what Nancy had to say about the special assessment and defending that special assessment is about what is the benefit to the property owner. And I think, you know, without a lot of knowledge, I'm guessing that, you know, that alleyway does add some value to those property owners there, especially, you know, if that's your means of, you know, getting in and out, supplies and things like that. And so, you know, I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more from, you know, some of the commissioners about where they stand, but, you know, I guess I would be open to, you know, if we want to split it down the middle and do a 55-45, and that way we're not hung up on like, are you a 60-40 or are you a 50-50? And so, and so I guess I'd like to hear just see what people think. I think the number does seem a little arbitrary, but I think there's some good reasons for moving it in the direction we're going in. But Pete, you can go.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add, the residential alleys that have been 70-30 splits, those have been petitioned by the homeowners to do those. So I don't know if that makes a bearing on what your decision is, whether it's a petition for or whether it was a one that we're doing because it has to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this instance, you know, this is a downtown alleyway, and so it feels like it might be, you might have a different treatment for a residential alleyway, right? I mean, there might be less benefit to the overall community in a residential area than there is in a downtown commercial area, is my feeling at the moment. But Pete, go ahead.
I have to agree with that on the residential. You know, I'm not talking residential. I'm talking commercial business district downtown. And if we go 60-40, or I can even live with 50-50, but I think, you know, either one, 70-30 is just not fair, and it should be switched, in my opinion. So I can live with, you know, 50-50 or 60-40, whatever the consensus is with the rest of the commissioners.
I would add too on this alley, it's projected cost of $274,000. So like Nancy gave you, a 10% swing is $27,400.
Yeah, this is a very expensive project for sure.
Keep in mind, this is two separate alleys we're talking about.
Is that the L-shaped one, Mary Ann? Behind Marty's and comes out?
That's one of them. And then the other one is what's called, I think, the Cat's Meow Alley, which is on the other side of University.
Behind the bird and stuff?
No. No, behind the Broadway Theater. That one that goes down there. So it's just like a continuation of that alley.
Okay, yep. So it's actually two alleys then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are we at? Are we at 60-40 or are we at 50-50?
I'm good with the 50-50.
I'm good with the 50-50.
George?
Me too. 50-50.
Yeah, I can go with the, sure.
50-50?
Fine, if that's what people decide.
Okay. Olivia? 50-50. Okay.
Yeah, 50-50 sounds good.
All right.
So what I think we're going to do on these is we'll update the capital improvement plan to show these new percentages, but I think it would also be worthwhile to actually document the policy on both the pedestrian lighting and the downtown alleys so that we have documented what the percentages are and the rationale of how we got to those percentages so that there's good documentation as we move forward in future years. And as the discussions start happening when the special assessment starts later this year, we'll have it well documented. So we'll bring you some actual policies to consider approving as well. So we have that in the record.
Thank you, Nancy. I think that's a good idea. Okay, next we have 6 different infrastructure investment priorities that are based on the master plan, starting with Canal Street Park, and we'll just move down that list if you'd like. And I know we have some people from Parks and Rec here, and obviously Jason is here. And so if you guys want to give any overview or or if we want to just jump into what everybody thinks.
Yeah, I think the only overview we have to have, Mayor, is that for the last couple of years, we've really tried to focus on just maintaining what we currently have. And so that's where we focus most of our capital improvement plan dollars, particularly in the parks and in downtown. And but what we learned during the master plan process is there is an appetite for some new stuff in certain areas. And so these 5 projects or 6 projects are ones that we've identified that fall more into the new category, that before we spent a lot of time working on potential design of those, we wanted to make sure the commission was aware of that shift and know whether you're really supportive of those or not before you approve the plan. So these are really the only 6 that really clearly fall in that new category. But I think each page speaks for itself as far as what the project is.
Yeah. Okay. Mary, go ahead.
I'd just kind of like to make a blanket statement that I think it's exciting that we are talking about having the ability to spend more money after last year being so cautious. So I think these are good projects.
Thanks, Mary. I'm just going to dive in. The Canal Street Park, it's $80,000. If you're not, it's kind of laid out where that is if you're not familiar, but they're looking for basically some basic recreation equipment, potentially some garbage, and I'm all in for that one. I think that would be good for that neighborhood, and I know it's kind of scenic right there. It's near the river. If you, and yeah, I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. So I guess if everyone's sort of, in support of what I just said, maybe just give a thumbs up and we'll count the thumbs, right? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm seeing 5 thumbs. So we'll move on to Horizon Park, which is on page 56.
And this has to do with reusing that area where the softball field was that a couple meetings ago you indicated might have better uses. So this would be reusing that area.
Mary?
Once again, I'd like to speak in support of this.
Okay. Everybody like the project at Horizon Park? Thumbs up. All right. I guess if I know Lori and Pete, I didn't see a thumbs up. And so if there's a reason, okay.
I did.
If there's something.
Where you're taking, and what was the improvement? We're taking the baseball. What was for Horizon Park?
We would be reusing that area where the softball field was, and part of it will be used for pickleball courts. The tennis courts will also be upgraded there. And Craig, can you tell us what else was planned for that area? Craig, you have to unmute to let us know.
Primarily, it was the pickleball courts and the tennis courts. We do have some bench features and trees and plantings of that nature, just to kind of help push the park into a more family atmosphere.
Then we're taking that fence and stuff and repurposing that and using it at other ball fields.
Correct.
Okay. I guess I didn't even realize there was tennis courts over there. Is that by the soccer field, behind the soccer field?
Yeah, they're kind of hard to see from the road, but it's back basically in the middle of the soccer fields behind the restroom facility.
Okay. Thank you. I'm okay with that.
You're welcome.
Next is the Town Center Civic Space where parking lot 3 is currently located. And this has it's a little bit more of a bite. It's $1.5 million project. Nancy, you look like you might want to.
Yeah, this one we talked about in August about there seemed to be general support to change that parking lot into a civic space area. And so we've got a couple different designs that have been proposed through the master plan process and the zoning process of what that could look like, but there's no specific design that's been decided upon. If this is approved to move forward, there would be community meetings to really talk about what the design could be and what we want to accomplish with that place. Do we just want green space? Do we want an ice skating rink? Do we want a pavilion? Do we want, what exactly do we want there? So the price tag we have is an estimate. And the way we did the allocation of that price tag is we were previously going to spend over $400,000 to reconstruct that parking lot. So we assumed in this plan that the city contribution would be about $500,000 and the rest would be grant funded. So there's a little sticker shock when you see $1.5 million, but the amount that the city would spend would be very similar to what we would have spent on the parking lot, and the rest would be contingent on grant funding.
Mary?
One of the designs that I remember seeing was that basically the space that would be most of the current parking lot being turned into green space, and then parking spaces on the curved edge, so that we, don't end up with 0 parking spaces. But it looked like that was one of what were probably many good designs. I just happen to remember that one.
George?
Yeah, I realize this is at the infant, it's at the beginning stages, but I'd really support this. I think out of all of them, I think this is one that will really have a very significant impact on the downtown area. So I'm absolutely, the devil's in the details. Obviously, we'll have discussions as plans become available, but I like it.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I really like the idea of transforming that to a town center instead of a parking lot. And obviously, if you want, you can spend a lot of money, but I'll hand it over to Pete.
I really can't support this because I think we have a real parking problem downtown. And that lot, most of the time during the business day that I go by there, that lot's almost full all the time. And I just can't see turning that into green space there. I really can't.
Lori, go ahead.
Thanks. I would support trying to find some way to use that as a civic space. I think it's a rarity that we have that open area plunked right down in the middle of downtown. I think its use could be better utilized, even though I know parking's a problem. And you will always hear me talking about parking, and when we're talking taken away from parking spaces, I have a huge problem. So I don't know where we could find another place. If we could take lacrosse glass across the street down of the city hall and make a parking lot or a parking garage there, I'm not sure. But I think we should define something downtown, in the center of downtown, not the other area by the library that we're going to be discussing, the town to gown area. But I think it would be a homing point. Most of our parades and most of our gatherings happen there in a parking lot or on the side of a parking lot. So I think it'll be beneficial to everybody involved. If we could get an ice skating rink anywhere in downtown, I think that's a major plus and something that would help not only our community, but the business owners when you're able, as a parent, maybe to drop your kid down at the ice rink and then go in to have sushi or go in shopping or something at the Broadway Theater. So I would love to see that renovated for something more useful to the community and the businesses.
I'm thinking we have, it seems like we have about 4 or more people who are kind of interested in that project. And so I think we'll give that one the okay and move on to the town gown art piece.
And this one is, I think, in some respects, a smaller discussion because the only expenditure next year would be an additional $5,000 as we redo Illinois Street so that we could have an island where the piece of art could land and we could have conduit under the ground to be able to put it there. This obviously does not include the artwork itself, but it would provide a place for the artwork to go at some point in the future. And the expectation is that that artwork would likely be donated or grant funded in some way. But since we're redoing the street, it seemed to make sense to make a place for it to be able to land if necessary, if we move forward with that.
I'm seeing a thumbs up from Mary. I think I brought this up when we talked about the master plan. I think that the town gown connection is important. I think, you know, if we could also reach out and see if the tribe would be interested in joining on this project as well. I sort of think, you know, if you look at the city logo, if you look at our community, they're just as integral part as the university. And so, you know, I'm not saying it has to be that they have to be involved, but I certainly think that if we're going to put an art piece in the middle of our downtown, you know, it might be symbolic to have them involved and probably a good faith effort. So, Pete?
Wouldn't it make more sense that if you're going to proceed with a town center development that you would put a piece of artwork there right in the center of downtown? And then possibly, you know, we could replace that parking when the jail moves out and maybe purchase that and turn that into additional parking to try to relieve the parking problem.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. George?
Yeah, I just want to, I think having a piece of art in the center of downtown is a great idea. I think having a piece of art there is a great idea. And I think having the tribe or the Native American community involved in that, I think is a wonderful, wonderful idea. So, I mean, I support what you're saying, Will, that's all.
Mary?
I do like the idea of maybe an artwork in the middle of downtown, but I thought one of the ideas was Illinois and University was a good place because visually it was a clear shot between campus and downtown.
Your memory is exactly right on. It was to make that connection between campus so that it would draw people to the downtown potentially from campus.
All good ideas.
All right, so the majority likes the town gown art piece. Seeing some thumbs up. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. Next is the downtown streetscape improvements.
And these are, as we've been doing the downtown streets, it's adding some of the stamped concrete making sure we have some consistency with the tree grates, the benches, the trash cans. So as we redo Illinois Street next year, this would give us funds to make sure that we have those streetscape enhancements similar to some of the other downtown streets.
Pete?
I'm in favor of that. Nancy, will we be on the new streetscape? Would it, some of the tree retention and stuff now we're changing going down Broadway? Is that going to continue down Main?
Are you talking about the planters?
Yes, that the city staff's doing.
Yeah, I can't recall off the top of my head, Pete, if there's any planters along Illinois Street. Bill or Jason, do you know if there's any planters along there that would be redone at the same time?
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I don't recall off the top of my head. Michelle said she's in the meeting here.
Isn't there some at the corner by the bird there? On that intersection? I thought there was a big one on the corner, maybe I'm mistaken.
I think we're already planning maybe to redo that one, Pete, as part of the planter replacements.
Okay.
We'll double check that though.
Maine and Illinois.
Yeah, those are going to be replaced, I believe. With the,
that will be done this year, right, Jason?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, with this year's funding, Pete, we'll have all of the planters redone, similar to what we've been doing on Broadway Street.
Yeah, that'll be done this year, Pete.
Thank you.
I just want to remind the commission, the more infrastructure and the more amenities, visual amenities we put in, that's things we're going to have to maintain for in the future. I mean, the legacy costs on lighting, you know, replacing not only the lamp post, but the lamp bulbs, granted they're LED, you know, these planters, when we put them in, not only we're going to have to maintain them, eventually we're going to have to replace them. And costs will always go up.
Well, I think most of them are using these split cut rocks now instead of the poured planters, which were all cracking and everything else. I think there's going to be less maintenance on these, and it's going to be a lot
And
cheaper.
that's
From what I'm seeing, what the city work crews doing, are doing an excellent job, and I think we're coming way under budget of what we projected to replace.
Yeah, I think we're also saving on the maintenance with the stamp colored concrete as well, rather than the brick pavers. The brick pavers are a lot more expensive to install, and then they also require maintenance too. So.
Yeah, and Commissioner Gillis, to your point, staff is very aware of ongoing maintenance and increased maintenance. So I think what you're seeing is that the proposals moving forward are to have an eye on items that either require less maintenance or are less expensive in the long run. So we're trying to be cognizant of that and still have some degree of attractive amenities downtown.
Great, glad to hear that. Oh, just a warning, Will, we're on the hour mark.
Thank you, Lori. And with that note, I mean, I'd like to at least maybe get through the rest of B with the downtown streetscape, and then the mid-Michigan pathways, and then I know there's the new sidewalk issue on Oak Street, and then maybe a quick, just if anyone has some topics that they'd like to discuss at the next work session, maybe bring those up. But I know we're up at an hour, but
Yeah, I think you have to go to a vote for that, if I remember.
Yep. If you guys want to take maybe another 15 minutes, thumbs up. All right, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs. So on the downtown streetscape additions, do you guys it seems like everybody's kind of on the ball with that one or behind that one. So just make sure. All right, I think I got 7. So, all right. Mid-Michigan Pathways. And this, on page 61, also includes potentially a partner project with Union Township, extending that to River Road. So
Actually, this project just has us going from Pickard Street to Mission Creek Park. It doesn't go all the way to River Road. The whole pathway project eventually wants to get there, but this would just get us to Mission Creek Park. And in 2022, we'd be doing the design of the pathway, and then it would be contingent on finding some grants and donations and other partners in 2023 for the actual construction of it. But it would just get us partway down that road. So again, I take you back to the communication that you received at your last meeting from the Fox Meadows subdivision. They were looking for it to go further than that. And that is not what we have in the plan. The plan just has us going to the city park.
yeah. Nancy, I know, I've had a conversation with Brian Melke, who's this Union Township supervisor, and I think they're kind of interested in potentially partnering on a project there. I'm willing to sort of partner. Obviously, the devil is probably in the details, but I think if we can align, we might be able to reduce the cost to both and benefit both communities, or really the community, because I don't really see us as separate communities. But a lot of hands up, so I'll start. Pete.
I guess I can agree with that if we can get the township to come in on it and pay for part of it.
George?
Yeah. For me on this project, the devil's really in the details. I don't know how much I'm a fan of it or not. Most of the area to the dog park is Union Township anyway, right? Even the park between Pickard, or there's parts that are Union Township even between Pickard and the dog park, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly dotted. I mean, we own.
There are actually. I
No,
know.
no.
Go ahead.
We own that all the way to the dog park.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
No, we don't. On the west side of the road, we do. On the east side, or the west side of the road is in the city limits. The east side of the road, there are parts of it. It does jog in and out, and parts of it are Union Township between Pickard and the dog park.
Now, where Coyne built his house, that's all Union Township. He doesn't even pay taxes in Mount Pleasant. I mean, he pays taxes in Union Township, and in the other house they put in beside that. So for me, it really becomes nuanced in terms of, and the Coyne Oil Company is right there in the corner. So I just wanted to. I'm not against it necessarily, but Brian would have to step up and say, hey, I'm doing this with you, and this is the amount I'm paying, and I'm going to take care of the parts that are Union Township, as opposed to the city just going in and doing the whole thing for Union Township. I'm not in favor of that at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I guess I didn't even realize. I thought that whole straight shot up to the dog park was all us. I didn't realize.
Not on the east side, it's not.
Because I'd have a problem paying taxpayer money unless it was collaboration.
Yeah.
Because this request came from the subdivision that's in Union Township north of the park. Well, some of the interest is, well, obviously, because Brian Milkey is representing Union Township. So, and my concerns are also that we get the cart before the horse, because there is plans on the rail trail. I don't know if that's going to be actually, forget that, because I'm not sure if the rail trail is coming. I knew it was going to come up by the railroad.
Yeah, we're working on this with the Mid-Michigan Pathway to make sure that we're doing just one northern spur. So we will be coordinating with them to make sure that that's coordinated with their plan.
Okay. And how it comes from Island Park, Nelson Park area is I mean, in theory, is along the railroad tracks, right? Then behind the Pharaoh's building?
For a short part of it.
Okay. And it's not the Pharaoh's building anymore. That's old school. I don't even know what it's called now.
Mary's had her hand up for a minute.
Well, I want to remind you that this isn't an isolated project. This is a continuation. I've cycled the part from South Campus down to Shepherd, and then this will connect so that you could start in Shepherd and get through Mount Pleasant, and then potentially on from there through Union Township and beyond.
Actually, Commissioner, it goes from Ithaca and will terminate in Clare.
Eventually.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, I think from what I'm hearing from the commission is, obviously our side, our part of that pathway seems to have support. And there's some interest obviously in working with Union Township on this project, but obviously the devil's in the details, and we'll, have to figure out what's agreeable to both boards. And, but in general, support.
Support.
Kind of iffy.
What's that, Lori?
Oh, I'm just kind of iffy. The devils are in the details. I know we got to get those people off the road, walking on that road.
Yeah, I think it's a safety issue. And then, you also, we've got the Mount Pleasant Center property there and the boarding school, and that's a whole other set of issues, I think, at some point. But
yeah, but it'll be going on the east side.
yeah,
Right.
This will be on the east side.
So why not put it on the west side on property we own?
Well, because the tribe.
You don't, George.
Yeah,
That's the part that's now tribal.
Part of it is.
Yeah.
And being that it's coming on, sorry, George, being that the trail is coming from like Island Park, Nelson Park to that west side, keep them off the streets, keep them on the path.
I'm iffy as well until I see
Sure.
the details.
Well, we can certainly have some additional conversations with Union Township. So I think it sounds like, and we won't have that resolved by the time you have to approve this in June, but we can add language that it's contingent on a partnership with the township to try to make this work.
Right. And then I wanted to ask the committee, are there other things that need to be addressed about the capital improvement plan? I know maybe putting people on the spot, but just to give potential heads up for our discussion, because it sounds like we'll be having another work session talking about the capital improvement plan. So
We had not received any other questions from any commissioners.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
But not a big one, Nancy, a real easy one. Obviously town centers, that's not gonna be happening, within the next 6 months or by winter. But I would like to see something, at least an idea about putting an ice skating rink down to Island Park. What was planned last year with a whole bunch of things that came up that wasn't allowed to happen. The tarps, had holes in them and the such. But if that might be a possibility, or if, we could have some numbers on how that might be able to happen down in Island Park. Of course, for any townies, there used to be a grandstand and a big, huge ice skating rink. It was free. The only thing you had to pay for was the hot chocolate and the candy bars and stuff on the inside of the grandstand. It was a great opportunity for not only kids to hang out, kids from the west side. All you needed was a pair of skates. I think it would be awesome connection to the past for people that have grown up here, and also something new for our youth to enjoy and be involved in, and maybe even lend a hand to our hockey team, as starter outers, or, you know, people learning how to skate in an outdoor arena. Imagine that. So, but I would love to see.
Yeah, we'll need to look at that a little bit, because I'm not sure with the way that you're envisioning it in Island Park, if it would rise to the level of a capital project, because I'm not sure if the capital cost would be $20,000. That may just be an operating budget decision that we would do, because I think the cost of doing what you've described may not be as high as 20. And then the issue is really the staffing to make sure that we can keep it safe. So it may be more of an operating budget decision, but we will certainly look at that and verify whether that's true or not and let you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd like to bring one thing to the attention, I guess, of the board and staff. I've gotten some communications from some community members, you could probably guess, but they're interested in basically sort of an environmental audit of, you know, city operations or city as a whole. I know Traverse City did one a few years back, and they've got a big report like on their website. And I don't know off the top of my head if that's, you know, what that cost, and I haven't done, you know, any real digging on that, but, you know, is that a more capital improvement type project, or is it a budget, you know, budgetary question sort of thing? And
I'm thinking that's an operating budget issue as well, Will, because it's more of a study. It's not really any infrastructure. So I think that would be part of our operating budget discussion.
Yeah. George?
Yeah, I really think that's the type of thing you could partner with the university on too. I mean, you could probably get a faculty members team to, the university has actually won awards for, you know, decreasing their carbon footprint and stuff.
Yeah.
I bet you could get a faculty member and some of their students to do like what Steve did. And this is an ideal thing for students. Anyway,
Right.
I don't know, maybe it's not sophisticated enough.
Good idea, Will.
Yeah, because I think that, sorry. I also think that's a good idea. I also would like to find some ways to encourage businesses that are not using our recycling program. And you can go to a lot of businesses and look in their dumpsters and all the cardboard that's in there that they do not take the time to recycle. It's a shame, because little old me, I'm rinsing out cans and I'm doing all this. And then, you know, I end up being at a gas station or a party store, picking up milk, of course. But you know, if you go by the dumpster and there's just so much that can be recycled, you know, I'm tempted to take them to the recycling center myself, and I also would love to find a way to expand our recycling centers, what they take in. That's just that's probably not in the capital improvement plan either, just throwing it out there as another way of sustainability and environmentally conscious.
Yeah. George?
Yeah, we all really tired, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm going to shut up after this, but I mean, I can tell you that I mean, I don't understand why they don't do recycling downtown in businesses. Is there some reason why those trucks don't? I mean, they only recycle in residential.
We only offer curbside pickup in residential areas.
Is that a financial thing, or?
Financial and logistics, as far as being able to, because you can't use the little blue bins in commercial areas. You would have to go up to much larger things that are not as easy to dump on a weekly basis in a downtown area.
Then put up more dumpsters, and you only have so much space in that enclosure right now in Jockey Alley, and each business only has so much dumpster space.
Yeah.
If you had the space, they can accommodate a dumpster just for recycling. That's what they do at the schools. They have a dumpster for garbage, and then they have a dumpster primarily for recycling.
But the city couldn't have one that businesses could just sort of put cardboard in or something. I mean, that wouldn't work. I'm not
Sure.
go here. I mean, it's late.
Well, it's just brainstorming here. Yeah. Okay. Can we go now?
I should ask you now. But no, I'd like to, if there's any other things that people would like to talk about. And obviously, you know, sometimes we do things on the fly, but I would say doing things on the fly makes it harder for staff. So best to let everybody know as quickly as you can. So,
They're used to that.
doesn't mean they should be. All right. Well, I think we've had a good meeting, and everybody have a good, safe week, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good evening, guys.
Meeting adjourned.